In this video, we're going to be talking about how I beat procrastination using this book. It changed my life when I read it 5 years ago. It literally changed the way that I approach life and has been one of the biggest contributors to building my business to tens of millions of dollars in revenue and hundreds of employees. This book is by the legendary Seth Godin, who is one of the most productive human beings that I've ever come across. He not only has written 21 best-selling books, but has also built and sold a software company for $50 million, and somehow also found the time to write 8,000 blog posts to his blog, which is casually one of the most famous blogs on the internet. He explains his shocking approach for getting so much done and beating procrastination in the practice. So in this video, I'm going to share my top 5 takeaways, starting with the quote on page 3 that first hit me hard. That quote is, "Creativity is an action, not a feeling." That reframing of creativity is why I force myself to wake up at 5 a.m. and immediately force myself to start moving and taking action on my priorities. Because creativity is an action, it's not a feeling. Before reading the practice, I'd often wait to start creative work until I felt like it, until I felt creative, because I would tell myself, I'm not in the zone yet, or I've got writer's block, I've got to wait until that's gone away. But that kept me procrastinating sometimes for hours or days. So now I say, screw how I feel, I'm just going to do the work, and eventually my feelings will align with the work and I'll feel creative. This is how I find the time to make YouTube videos every weekend, even though part of me feels exhausted from running a 200-person company over the week and doing all sorts of other work over the weekend. But I jump right into it on Sundays and end up powering through whatever feelings I have that would have otherwise prevented me from doing the work and procrastinating. There's 2 other quotes in the book that really hit this point home. The first is that your work is too important to be left to how you feel today. That quote I find so inspiring, that the work that we do is too important to be left to how we feel today is a really powerful reframing, and again underscores the importance of taking action even when we don't feel like it. The next quote that also is in this vein is, "You become a professional when you show up even when you don't feel like it." Those were the top takeaways for me in the first chapter of Seth's book. But when I got to this next quote, it all clicked together and became even more effective. I'm talking about the one on page 22, where he says, "Do what you love is for amateurs. Love what you do is the mantra for professionals." That quote shifted my thinking in a really deep way, because I've been told, like you probably have, ever since I was 3 years old, that you've got to do what you love. Or another version of this myth is follow your passion. But this book made me realize that the follow your passion advice is a dangerous myth and a lie, that people actually become passionate when they become great. They don't become great because they're passionate. We aren't born with specific passions towards specific industries. For example, I'm now passionate about building my software company, owner.com. I've been doing it for 7 years and I now absolutely love it. But I wasn't born with that passion. How could I have been born with the passion to start a software company if software has only existed for less than 70 years? That wouldn't make any evolutionary sense to be hardwired into my DNA. Yet when people who have known me for a long time see that I'm now passionate about what I do, they comment and say, "Oh, Adam, you're so lucky you found your passion." But they're falling into the trap that Seth talks about in this book, not realizing that I became passionate about my work after I pushed through years of hard times and got great at it. This is said really well by the author Seth. He says, "Only after we do the difficult work does it become our calling. Only after we trust the process does it become our passion." Speaking of trusting the process, if you're enjoying learning from this video and you want to continue learning with me on my journey in optimizing my productivity as the CEO of a 200-person company, then click that subscribe button down below, because every month I post new videos like this one, sharing the things that I learn from reading hundreds of nonfiction books, or connecting with legendary business leaders, or executing and building my company. So if I were advising a younger version of myself on how to stay on track and find a way to love what I was doing and push past the urge to procrastinate, what specifically would I tell myself? That's where I'd share this next quote from Seth, from page 169, where Seth says, "If you run a marathon, you're going to get tired. The only difference between the people who finish the marathon and those that don't finish is that the finishers figured out where to put their tired. I get chills actually speaking that quote because it helped me beat procrastination in a really profound way in realizing what procrastination actually is. Procrastination is your brain trying to protect you from feeling various forms of pain. Whether it's feeling bored or tired or stupid in doing creative work, the reason we procrastinate is to avoid feeling those painful feelings. So what if instead we accept that the work we're doing is hard and tiring and boring and painful sometimes, and we're going to feel stupid sometimes? What if we remind ourselves that that is part of the process itself, and that the difference between the people who succeed with these types of creative work and those that don't is that those people that succeed find a way to push through that pain? That doesn't mean that pushing through the urge to procrastinate and doing the hard work leads to success every time. That's where this next takeaway from the book comes in. And it's also changed my life by making me more willing to take risks and fail. Every creator who has engaged in the practice has a long, nearly infinite string of failures. All the ways not to start a novel, all the ways not to invent the light bulb, all the ways not to transform a relationship. Again and again, creative leaders fail. It's the foundation of our work. We fail and then we edit and then we do it again. There's another quote in this same chapter that really hit this point home for me, where Seth says, if you want to complain that you don't have any good ideas, then show me your bad ideas first. Befriending your bad ideas is a useful way forward. They're not your enemy. They are essential steps on the path to better. One of my investors, Julian Shapiro, shared a different version of this concept with me years ago, and pairing it with this Seth insight changed my life. The concept he shared with me, he calls the Creativity Faucet. And I asked him for advice on content creation, which prompted him to share, because he's built millions of followers and one of the most popular blogs on the internet over the years. He said, Adam, start by visualizing your creativity as a backed up pipe of water. The first mile is packed with wastewater. That wastewater has to be emptied before the clear water arrives. Because your pipe only has one faucet, there's no shortcut to achieving clarity than first emptying the wastewater. So let's apply this to creativity. At the beginning of a creative session, you see through every bad idea that comes to mind. Instead of being self-critical and resisting bad ideas, recognize that you must first see them to completion. Bad ideas, by the way, are often the cliches your brain has been overexposed to. Once bad ideas are emptied, a surprising thing happens. Better ideas begin to come out. Here's my guess as to why. Once you've generated enough bad output, your mind reflexively identifies which elements caused the badness. Then it becomes better at avoiding them. You start pattern matching interesting ideas with greater intuition. So when I'm writing stuff for my team or my customers, my process in writing is to just write as though I'm speaking every possible thought I have on a topic out. Then I go through and I cut out the things that were bad ideas to simplify and let the best ideas shine. A great recent example of how I used this tactic in action is what happened when I was writing our positioning document in sharing how our website builder was going to be different from all of the other website builders that our customers could potentially use. I was initially hesitating to start this writing exercise because I knew that there was a lot of different things to cover and I was worried that I wouldn't have initially great ideas. But when I reminded myself of the creativity faucet and the fact that having those bad ideas at first in the process was exactly what I needed to be doing, I was able to get to writing and comparing our vision for a website builder versus what a website builder traditionally is, and then distilled and filtered all that I wrote out to be this ultimate positioning document, which has helped clarify our team's alignment on what product we're building towards and what's going to make our product differentiated in the minds of our customers. Which is actually the last major takeaway I had from this book. This quote that I found really freeing when I read it. In it, Seth says, the only choice we have is to begin. And the only place to begin is where we are. Simply begin, but begin. I also got chills just reading that quote because if we want to make great work and we want to beat procrastination, our only choice is to begin. And the only place we can begin is where we are. As simple as that sounds, don't overcomplicate it and just start. Then as you do start, remember that creativity is an action, not a feeling. You'll feel it in time once you begin taking action towards doing those harder things. If you want to continue learning about the books that have been the most helpful to me, as I've grown into the CEO of a company with tens of millions of dollars in revenue and hundreds of employees, I made another breakdown of one of my favorites, The Score Takes Care of Itself, where I share my top takeaways and specifically how it's helped me grow as a leader. I highly recommend it if you've made it this far and you enjoy learning the takeaways from some of the most formative books I've read on this journey.